Okay. Y'all can come in a little bit. Today was bath day, so I'm clean. All right, I'm getting close. All right, are we ready? You guys give me the thumbs up. All right, I want to welcome everyone here today. First, before I get into the specifics of the press conference, I want to go and identify some people who are up here today representing various law enforcement agencies that were involved in a multi-year, multi-jurisdictional operation that yesterday resulted in the indictment of 6 defendants and the detention of 48 illegal aliens who were caught in Abbeville County, South Carolina. First, representing the State Law Enforcement Division, Chief Keel is not allowed to be here, but Captain Jason Wells is standing up here, Lieutenant Ron Dadabo, Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent in Charge Mark Zito is here, and Assistant Special Agent in Charge Rob Burgess is here. ICE Assistant Field Office Director Maria Sommers represented today, 8th Circuit Solicitor David Stumbo. There are other law enforcement agencies that are not here this morning, but I do want to give a shout out to the Greenville Sheriff's Department, the Greenwood Sheriff's Department. Obviously, Abbeville Sheriff Ray Watson could not be here today. He is represented by Representative Jeffrey Hines. And then I think I said Greenwood. What I want to be able to just restate, this is a multi-year, multi-jurisdictional operation involving local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. Yesterday, a raid was conducted at the business of Bernstein Von Seelen Precision Casting in Abbeville, South Carolina. 2 managers were arrested as part of that sting, Christopher Douglas Ramey and Sandy Lynn Willis. They were arrested and on state grand jury charges, and 48 workers were detained by ICE as part of an immigration component to this operation. They were detained on immigration violations. This operation originally began in the fall of 2024 when we were approached by local and state law enforcement partners who were frustrated at that time because at the federal level the priorities were very different and they were not able to effectively engage in law enforcement activities to go after individual illegal immigrants who were using fake identification and falsified documents. So our office was approached about 18 months to 2 years ago to assist at the state level in facilitating an investigation. When members of my staff met with our federal partners who are represented here today, the decision was made much like we do when we're prosecuting and investigating dope cases. You can go after the street dealer, or the user, I should say, or you could go after the street dealer and the people up the supply chain. We wanted not just to attack the demand side, but we wanted to go after the supply side of this type of criminal enterprise. And what I mean by that is there are people who are here illegally, who use fake IDs, fake identification, and to remain here illegally. And then there are those people here who manufacture, fabricate, facilitate these falsified documents to allow people here to remain illegally. And this isn't just about the manufacturing of the documents. This is about stealing people's identities. Many of these documents involved social security numbers of real U.S. citizens. It involved real driver's ID license numbers of real citizens here in South Carolina. So people's identities were obviously being compromised as part of this racket. Now, this began in the fall of 2024. Over the last 18 months, we have obviously had an ongoing operation that resulted in yesterday's raid. The office expanded this investigation to include not just going after those illegal aliens, but also going after the people who manufactured these types of documents. One of the things that is concerning to me, and I'm not just talking about this particular case, but there is human trafficking going on in South Carolina. We do have illicit drug operations being facilitated by violent gangs like Tren de Aragua, like Mexican drug cartels. And there are people out there not just making these documents and these fake IDs and these fake immigration documents to allow people here to come here and work to feed their families. They're making these documents for people who are engaged in the worst of the worst conduct in society. And so we wanted to go after those who were engaged in that. So in addition to the 2 people at the Bernstein facility that were arrested because they were knowingly hiring illegal aliens, but it was also the 4 vendors, the document vendors who were manufacturing and fabricating and stealing the identities to be able to sell to many of the people who were here illegally. This is obviously very, very concerning to us. So this operation yesterday was conducted. Again, it was done with the involvement and the cooperation of members of the Attorney General's Office to the state grand jury. It was done in cooperation with local law enforcement and, of course, members of Homeland Security Investigations, ICE, and obviously State Law Enforcement Division, who are our law enforcement partners at the state level. There will be bond hearings later today for Mr. Ramey and Ms. Willis. They are scheduled for this morning at 10 a.m. Before the Honorable Judge Heath Taylor. The cases are going to be prosecuted by our head of our state grand jury criminal section, Creighton Waters, and Assistant Deputy Attorney General David Fernandez. I also want to make it abundantly clear that everyone who has been indicted in this case, they have the presumption of innocence until they are proven guilty in a court of law. With that being said, some of the charges that were being brought, let me go back. For the 4 vendors, forgery, more than $10,000, which carries a 0 to 10-year sentence. Identity fraud, 3 counts for these individuals, which carries 0 to 10 years. Obviously, we had charges for Mr. Ramey that include criminal conspiracy, identity fraud to obtain employment, and forgery more than $10,000, and the same for Ms. Willis. So those charges obviously will be prosecuted by this office. This time, I would invite any of our law enforcement partners who would like to make a brief comment before we wrap this up. Anyone?
I'm David Stumbo. I'm the 8th Circuit Solicitor, and also I've spoken with Abbeville Sheriff Ray Watson. He could not be here this morning, but Jeffrey Hines, Lieutenant with the Abbeville County Sheriff's Department, is here with us. These guys did a great job initiating this case, and then I can't tell you how gratifying it is in our position as prosecutors to see law enforcement agencies working so seamlessly together. And this was initiated obviously at the local level by the Sheriff's Office, but working together with SLED and our federal partners, working together to utilize the state grand jury as the tool that it can be. And this is how law enforcement, multi-jurisdictional, multi-agency investigations are supposed to work. And this has been going on for a couple of years now, culminating in the search warrant that was conducted yesterday. So that is good to see. As the 8th Circuit Solicitor, we're going to be partnering with the state grand jury in the prosecution of this matter as well. And we're just thankful that we have so many great partners across local, state, and federal that are doing this work to hold people accountable that are enabling this sort of thing. And as the Attorney General said, we don't need to, just like in drug investigations, we don't need to just be going after users. We need to be really holding accountable those that are enabling this criminal enterprise. And I think this investigation is a perfect example of that, and we're glad to be a part of it. So thank you.
I'll go ahead and call up Creighton Waters, who will be our chief prosecutor on this case. Again, I want to remind all of you that this is an ongoing investigation, so we may be limited into how much more information we can give you, but we'll take it on a question-by-question basis. Creighton.
Yeah, thank you, General. Again, I'm Creighton Waters, Chief Attorney of the State Grand Jury, and this case started in October of 2024. I named it Ghost Story because it was around Halloween, but I was approached by some of our SLED agents who were also HSI TFOs, and they were frustrated because they needed somebody to help them. And State Grand Jury, that's what we do. We were there to help them. But as Solicitor Stumbo stated, as the General has stated, you know, my first thought is that we're not here to address the users. We're going to look at this like a dope case. We're going to go after the dealers. And there was a real problem with the fact that just with a few $100s, people could get fake licenses, fake Social Security cards, LPRs, and other identification documents, in many instances of real Americans whose identities are being stolen. And then they're using those, and again, it's so easy for people to get those, and so that's the problem that we needed to fight. And not only that we have then workers who are using fake IDs. We don't know who they are, and they're in critical manufacturing and even areas where there are defense contracts that are being employed there with fake documents. That is something we couldn't ignore. We can't have people's identities being stolen. We can't have people who are working in critical manufacturing sectors with fake identification that have no legal right to be here. So, as always, our focus is on the supply. It's on the dealers, not the users, and that's how we looked at this case, just like we would a dope case.
Thank you. Any questions?
A.G. Wilson, when it comes down to this, I mean, are you alleging that those two managers orchestrated this entire operation?
No. It's kind of two separate things going on, as Mr. Waters just talked about. Obviously, this investigation began because out of frustrations that our partners, our state and federal partners here in South Carolina, were not getting these types of cases, meaning individual illegal aliens having access to forged documents to be able to remain here legally. They were not able to go after those people because that was not a priority at the federal level 2 years ago. It obviously became a priority with the new administration. They were frustrated with us. They were frustrated with the lack of investigative involvement, so they came to the Attorney General's office, and we began investigating the individuals who were possessing these forged documents. As we talked about, it's like when you're investigating a user who's using drugs, you start to find out where they get the drugs from, and then you start going up the chain and you start finding where the drugs are coming from. And instead of going after the user, in this case, the user of the documents, we started to investigate the users, the people who were making the documents, stealing the identities, and then selling those identities for a couple $100s a pop. As that investigation, as the scope of the investigation began to get larger, it obviously grabbed the individuals at the Bernstein Von Seelen fabrication facility. They got wrapped up into that, and so that was just a byproduct of that. The scope enlarged.
Do you see more arrests coming?
There's an ongoing investigation. We don't stop investigating or we don't stop arresting until we run out of leads. And so this investigation is going to continue to go. But at the end of the day, we want to send a message. And by we, I mean all the local investigators and law enforcement agencies as well as our federal partners who are here today. We want to send a message that this isn't about going after people who are trying to feed their family. This isn't going after companies or businesses who unknowingly hire an illegal. This is about going after something much larger. You know, a conspiracy of people around South Carolina to steal identities, to create fake Social Security cards, fake driver's license, fake immigration documents, to allow not just illegal aliens to be here, but people who are here engaging in violent or illicit conduct. It could be engaged in labor or sex trafficking, engaged in gang activity or cartel activity, drug trafficking activity. In this particular case, it targets businesses who knowingly and intentionally hire people that they know are not here legally and then hire them anyway. For instance, hiring the same person 2 or 3 times with 2 or 3 different identities because they haven't gotten the paperwork right. That kind of information. That is what we are targeting. And so will there be others to come? That we'll let the investigation organically play out, and it'll take us where it takes us.
Did the increase in 287G agreements help this investigation at all? Contribute to this?
I can't speak specifically to that. I do believe that the collaborative working environment that the state and the federal folks here in South Carolina now enjoy, I do believe that the priorities of the current administration are much more geared toward local collaboration with federal and partnerships. Whether 287G was directly involved in that, I don't know. But what I do know is this. You had several sheriff's departments, you had Homeland Security investigations, you had ICE, you had the State Attorney General's office, you had the State Law Enforcement Division, you had local solicitors' offices, all working together in collaboration together to make this operation a success.
Yesterday, the DOJ announced the Model Cities Initiative, where they're planning to direct $300 million to American cities to help reduce crime and restore law and order. Is that something you're familiar with, and would you like to see South Carolina be in the running?
Well, first off, the short answer is yes. Anytime we can receive support in an initiative like that. I have not read that initiative. Actually, I was not in a place where I could see it yesterday, so I don't want to comment on it specifically, but it sounds very good on its face, something that seems like I could get behind.
Is there someone here from law enforcement who could talk a bit about the arrest operation? I mean, it was pretty large.
Does any,
Facility 48.
you want to take that, Creighton?
So this is, there's a lot of logistics to go on with that, and you can see the partners that we have up here. We worked this, as I said before, like we would a narcotics case. We started with the users and then moved up to the dealers. We knew that when a search warrant was going to be executed on this business, a document search warrant to gather additional evidence, that because of the information that had been gathered, that there was going to be a strong likelihood that there would be a number of legal immigrants at the business. And in fact, ICE detained 48 people. And so recognizing that that was likely going to be the case, we had to marshal resources from SLED, from our local law enforcement, and then again, can't thank enough our partners with the Department of Homeland Security, particularly HSI, and then ICE, of course, handled the detention of the allegedly illegal immigrants. So we knew that was going to be a large operation, and we knew that when we went in there, we would need those resources to manage that, and law enforcement, of course, did a great job in doing exactly that.
I have questions, and I'm going to go with the first one. This might be for ICE, but what is next for the defendants who've been detained after they go through the due process and the legal process? Are they going to be deported? And also, what is the message that you want to send to the community, to the Spanish or Latino community who are here trying to get a legal status through the right process? Now, and the last one is, a manufacturer factory has a way to know, sometimes to investigate if these documents are false or if they're legal or not. What is the company saying about this, or is there any legal problems that this company got into because they were hiring this type of people with these documents?
What do you want to address the ICE process? You have to come up to the.
As far as the ICE process goes, at the time of arrest and including up to right now, we're vetting all those cases to make sure that we review everyone's status and give them the opportunity for due process. There's a lot of people that have been previously encountered and been ordered removed. Obviously, those will continue with the removal process. There's some people that we're going to place in removal proceedings. There's some people that have chosen to take voluntary departure. So the message that I would say to the community is, if you're here illegally, I would encourage you not to get involved and commit additional crimes. Because our job right now is, with the help with all our partners, Title VIII, 287G, this is a big push for the 287G partnerships that we have. In particular, we enjoy a great relationship with the state of South Carolina. And so yes, you're going to see a lot more of this. So I encourage again the community, the aliens that are here unlawfully. We've given the opportunity for incentivized voluntary departure. Take advantage of that, because you're able to go at your own leisure and get all your administrative and life in order before you have to go. Because if we do encounter you, we are doing target enforcement, specifically criminal aliens. But as we encounter criminal aliens and we're engaging in larger operations, we are going to review and look at everyone. Because as with this case, there's a lot more to behind the person that's here legally. There's a lot of people that are committing a lot of additional crimes like fraud. There's a lot of people that are being unfortunately, victims of crimes, taking advantage, labor. So we are grateful for the opportunity to partner with all the state, local law enforcement, and we're going to definitely continue to do that now that we have an administration that supports them.
Let me address that very quickly. I want to be clear that this, as we've stated over and over again, this investigation is not about targeting hardworking people that are just trying to put food on the table. But we cannot ignore identity theft. We cannot ignore blatant violations of the law. All of us up here are completely 100% behind people that are hardworking, that come here the right way, no matter where from. That's not what this was about. Like we said, it's not about the users, it's about the dealers. But we can't have readily available false identification that's stealing the identity of real Americans just freely flowing throughout our economy. We had to address that. We had no choice, and that's why we did this so strongly.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I want to send a message. The law enforcement efforts represented up here, our state partners, our federal, and our local partners, no one is targeting any specific community. No one's targeting any ethnicity. I've met with ICE and HSI in the past. I've met with SLED. I've met with our team. These arrests are incidental to a targeted investigation on people who were stealing American citizens' identities and using those to create illegal documents. That was the focus. We were following the crime. Everything else was incidental to that. Obviously, if a federal or state law enforcement officer is investigating you for crime A and they see people in the room who've committed crime B, they can't ignore crime B. They weren't looking at crime B, they were looking at crime A, if that makes any sense. But like Mr. Waters said, we cannot ignore conspiracies to steal identities and use those stolen identities to fabricate and manufacture fake federal immigration documents, as well as fake Social Security cards, fake driver's licenses. We have to go after that. And then as part of an undercover operation, when you find out that there is a specific business that is knowingly, again, they weren't just hiring, we didn't go after them because they were hiring Latino people. We went after them because of an undercover operation. They were knowingly, through witness and undercover operations, they were knowingly engaging in illicit criminal conduct. So they were targeted. Everything that ICE did incidental to that was just a byproduct. So I want to make it clear, we are not targeting communities because of what you look like or where you work. We're targeting specific conduct. We're following the facts of that conduct, and if it leads us to a crime, we're going to prosecute that crime.
AG Wilson, this was going on for 18 months. Why not execute this operation sooner? What led to this happening right now?
So obviously, investigations are like children. They are organic, they grow, they evolve, they change over time, and we let law enforcement boots on the ground make the determinations as to the timeline. There were some arrests made earlier this past year, or I guess in the fall, or late spring. But again, to use the analogy of the drug user versus the drug dealer and the drug trafficker, when you arrest the person using, you may not want to stop there. You may want to start going up the chain. You may want to start looking to the people further up the chain so that you can go after the conspiracy side of it. So the investigation was driven by federal and state law enforcement timelines, not by anything else. So, and again, it's ongoing. It just so happens that yesterday's operation resulted in a significant bust, and so that was the timing of this press conference. But there could be something else in the weeks or months to follow as a result of this operation, but that is determined by our federal and state law enforcement officials who are engaged in the undercover operations as well as the other investigative practices that they're engaged in at this time.
We've heard from folks that everybody in the plant was detained and put in handcuffs. If this was the case, how did you determine who to detain and who to investigate?
We had arrest warrants from state grand jury indictments for 2 managerial employees of the plant. From there, though, the assessment of workers at the plant was conducted by ICE in their normal course of the operations. And again, that was very carefully done. And as the AG just mentioned, there's a lot of logistics that go into an operation like this, and that is what determined the timeline, was marshaling those resources together to do an operation like this.
So ICE had everyone in cuffs, is that what?
That's not what I'm saying. ICE came and did their jobs as they are required to do. As we said before, and as the general just said, we can't just sit there and ignore crimes that are right in front of law enforcement. So when we conducted the search warrant, we knew that ICE was going to need to be there to make assessments, and they did that as they always do in the normal course of their jobs.
The plant managers here, when they do due diligence at the time checking those documents, and what's the reaction that they were being targeted with this scam?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question again?
Business managers, the plant, when I go to look for a job, apply for a job, I have to present my documents in this, they have to check that, double check and triple check. Were they doing their due diligence when you have to?
I kind of addressed this already, but I'll say it again. There were witnesses, and there were undercover operations where people were engaging in actual discussions with these people. And I don't want to unpack the investigation here at the press conference, but what we were able to determine through that undercover operations, as well as the evidence, is that people at this company, the 2 individuals that we just discussed, who were the high-ranking officials in that company, were knowingly hiring people that they knew were illegal and had fake documents, because on multiple occasions they would, when the documents weren't adequate, they would send them away and they would come back with new documents with different names. So obviously, these people knowingly and intentionally were working with these people who were undocumented to help them procure employment, and that is what they were charged with.
What Latin American countries or countries did most of those arrested yesterday come from?
Do we have that information?
Guatemala.
Guatemala, Mexico.
And so did those vendors turn on the company, or how did you find out the company was hiring?
So again, this is not the press conference where I'm going to go ahead and talk, because there's an ongoing investigation right now, and I don't want to obviously betray the investigative techniques currently being used, so I can't go into every aspect of the investigation this time. It's a good question, I just can't go into it. Yes, sir.
Just have a last request.
No, that's fine.
We can do this after the press conference. If she speaks Spanish, can she just give me a quick message to the Latino community who are afraid of operations like this?
He's asking if you want.
I think right now probably is not the time.
How about this? How about you talk with her offline, and she can be able to tell you what she can and can't say and as part of her official duties.
Perfect, thank you.
Have you begun notifying people whose identities were stolen, that they've been discovered in this operation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're not going to comment on the specifics, but, you know, whenever there's identity theft, we're going to make efforts to get in touch with any victims that may have been subject to this.
Can you talk about any material that was seized, like 3D printers or anything like that that might have helped create these false identities?
Not at this time.
But you will get into that later?
Yes, sir. Yes, John, we will.
How about the bond here? Where is it going to be used? Is it going to be in this building or?
No, it'll be at the Richland, where's it going to be, Creighton? The Richland County Courthouse. We have,
The two managers will have their bond hearings today. The one document vendor was arrested this morning. The others had been previously arrested and are either in jail or had received a bond.
okay. All right.
Should all workers carry ID with them at all times if they're going about their job in their plant, or
Well,
something you advise?
Well, I mean, look, I want to go back to my original statement. When law enforcement agencies like ours and our federal and state and local partners get evidence that someone is knowingly violating a law, we go to that conduct and then we slowly start to expand the investigation based on that specific conduct. So I don't want to send a message that there's this whole-scale raid going on where we're just going around to businesses and grabbing people because they don't look like they belong here, and therefore, if they don't have ID, they're somehow going to get scooped up. Everything that ICE did, the detention of the 48 individuals yesterday as a component of that raid, that was incidental to the focus of the investigation, which was going after the individuals at the company who were knowingly hiring people based on undercover investigation, as well as the vendors, the four document vendors who were knowingly engaging in the stealing of people's identities for the production of fake identification and social security cards. We were targeting that conduct, and then everything that followed from that was a result of a targeted criminal investigation. The message should not be that if you are Latino or if you look like you come from another country that you don't have your ID, you're going to be scooped up in some sting operation.
If I wasn't in a government building, I wouldn't have my wallet on me right now. I'm talking about all citizens of South Carolina. Is
Yeah.
that something you would advise, just so if this does occur at their workplace, it doesn't?
No. What I can tell you is this. I mean, I always carry my ID unless I accidentally forget it, but I always intend to carry it. But here's the thing: if you don't have your ID, you're not going to be thrown in some jail cell somewhere. This isn't the country we live in. That is not what we're saying we're going to do. So I don't want you to think that if you happen to be working at a manufacturing facility and there's a raid and there are people around you being scooped up, people are actually being vetted in real time. Their due process rights are being followed. I mean, they are being protected.
I'm not saying people get thrown in the van
Yeah.
automatically, but it would probably be to people's advantage to have their ID, just to sort of clear that up immediately.
Look, it's your advantage to have your ID when you're going through a TSA checkpoint at the airport. I mean, obviously, it's always an advantage to have your ID. I don't want to be misquoted saying if you don't have your ID, that somehow you're going to be susceptible to being scooped up in a raid operation. That is not what we're saying.
Do you think there are other operations like this throughout South Carolina, or have you solved the whole problem by what you did yesterday?
John, that's a good question, and I do not believe that this single operation has solved the problem. I think this single operation has sent a signal to people around the state of South Carolina who are engaged in similar conduct. And that is what we're trying to send. We're sending a message not just to people who are using fake documents. I'm not just sending, we want to send a message to people who are using fake documents. We want to send a message to people who are hiring people who use fake documents and they knowingly hire them. And then we want to send a message to people who are manufacturing fake documents by stealing identities and selling them. We're sending a message to them. If you continue to do this, we will find you, we will catch you, and we will prosecute you.
Any idea how many more are out there?
No, I can't comment. That would be speculation at this time. Again, it's ongoing, John. It'll evolve. Yes, sir.
Last one, I promise.
You promised that last time. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Go ahead. What you got?
How many people were involved in this operation, within all the agencies? And also, do you have any idea what's the economic impact that this scam was taking place? Because I'm assuming if someone has a social security number, they're going to be filing taxes at the end. And there's an economic impact here not only for the state of South Carolina, but also for the government.
I can't comment. Not because I can't. I don't know the economic impact since we're one day removed from the operation. But what I can tell you is the Attorney General's Office with the state grand jury, working with the State Law Enforcement Division, Homeland Security Investigations, ICE, as well as the Greenville Sheriff's Departments, Abbeville Sheriff's Department. Am I leaving any other? The 8th Circuit Solicitor's Office was involved because it was in their area, their jurisdiction. Am I leaving any of? I think I've covered, those are the law enforcement agencies that I'm aware of that were involved. How many individual investigators and law enforcement officials, I can let each individual agency, but I would imagine it would be in the dozens.
Let me address one last thing. When we were first approached with this, my first question was, where are they getting these fake IDs? Because that is not only a criminal security issue, that is a identity theft issue, that is a national security issue. So that is what we focused on. Where are they getting these fake IDs? That is a problem we can't ignore, and that was the focus of this investigation.
Was it an identity theft report what initiated the investigation?
It was not. It was ultimately complaints from local law enforcement about the prevalence of illegal immigrants in working in the community and businesses that were ignoring that. And again, when we were first approached with that, the big question in my mind was, where are they getting these fake IDs? As we keep saying, we work this like we would work a dope case. We started from the bottom and worked our way up.
And I'll say this, and I've tried. This is not a political issue at all, and I don't want people to perceive that. But what I'm going to tell you is, in the fall of 2024, when our local task force officers who were working with our federal partners came to us, there was a great deal of frustration because they were not getting support at the federal level for operations involving, known illegal aliens using known fake documents, and they said we're not getting any help because that was not a priority at the time of the Biden administration. You can read that how you will. That was not a priority. So they came to the state of South Carolina. Now, that's not to reflect the local federal agencies here. They're following, what their bosses tell them from D.C. But when they came to us, the state of South Carolina, through the Attorney General's Office, through the State Law Enforcement Division, through the local sheriff's departments, local solicitor's office, we said we will help you. And then, of course, from 2024, this was a state operation. The detention of the 48 illegal immigrants yesterday was a federal component, but make no bones about this. The state of South Carolina, this was, for the most part, a state operation, and then we decided to support our federal partners. Obviously, the priorities of the administrations changed from one administration to the next, and once the new administration came in last year, obviously that kind of freed things up. But the men and women working with our federal partners here in South Carolina are just doing their jobs. And they came to us along with our state task force officers and said we need help. And so we helped them. And that resulted in yesterday's sting, and hopefully that will result in more investigations and more results like we saw yesterday in the weeks, months, and hopefully years to come.
Well, with so many people arrested at one facility, is that plant still in operation or are they shut down now?
I can't comment. You'd have to talk to the people representing that company.
I will say this, ICE detained 48 individuals from one shift. That, I think, speaks volumes.
What time did you guys show up?
The operation started about 9:30 in the morning.
Why you didn't tell us?
We have known about it for some time, and obviously operational security is of paramount importance when you're dealing with things like this, which is why obviously the timing is based on when law enforcement thinks it's optimal to engage in an operation like this, when you have to get everything lined up, you have to get all your people in place, and you have to get all the evidence in place. And so that's what kind of drove this thing. You guys are asking a lot of good questions. I think we've given you enough right now. Obviously, we have our press release that we just released. I want to state one more time that everyone who has been indicted in this case, they have the presumption of innocence until they are proven guilty in a court of law. So I do want to put that out there. But again, I want to thank all of you for coming today to report on this press conference. It's important for the people of South Carolina to know that law enforcement at the local level, the state level, and the federal level are working together to enforce the law and to protect their communities and their families. So thank you so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon.